This is Power 98.7. And now you're listening to Power Talk with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, 9 a.m. to midday, taking your calls on 0861 987 000.
Welcome back, Bantwana Benkosi. This is Power Talk with me, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, on Power 987. You would have picked up that the South African government has sent a high-level delegation of senior police and government officials to Lesotho for urgent talks amid a concern about, which is a security concern, obviously, between the two neighbouring countries. Certainly, this concern relates to the claim by Basotho that there are military training camps operating in South Africa. And these military training camps are by Basotho people who seem to be saying they're going to wage a liberation struggle, I guess, to reclaim land. The land of the Basotho people. I'm joined by the SAPS National Deputy Commissioner, Lieutenant General Tebello Mosikili. Welcome to Power Talk, General. Thanks indeed for creating time.
Thank you very much for having me, Dr Ndlozi, and to the listeners of Power FM. A very good morning. I guess it's still morning. Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, indeed it is, ma'am. It is. I'm also joined by retired South African National Defence Force Lieutenant General Maomela, Motau. Welcome to Power Talk, Ndade. Thanks for creating time for us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Ndlozi, and your listeners.
And finally, crime and security expert Willem Els. Welcome to Power Talk, and thanks for creating time for us here on Power Talk.
Good morning to you.
Mama, let me start with you. So initially, the idea that we had received as a response from government, and you will correct me if I'm wrong, was that the government of South Africa itself has no clue of the claims and could not confirm that there are operating military camps by the Basotho people. Has that position changed?
Not at all, Dr. Ndlozi and the listeners. We still did not establish any such a camp. Up to this far, I think our operatives are still on the ground to try and check every corner of this country where there will be an establishment of a military or militaristic style of training. We have not.
But are there no exchange of intelligence information between yourselves and Lesotho security officials? And if not, didn't then an initiative be undertaken? Wasn't there an initiative to get what are they basing the claims on?
We did have engagements from the onset of this particular discovery, or what Lesotho have discovered on their part. They did reach out to South Africa in a form of a letter, and subsequent to that, there were engagements between the intelligence communities at the ground level. The provinces closest to Lesotho, they did engage because they also wrote to them of the concerns that they were uncovering from the people that they have in their own country. Then they also explain the issue of somebody who is busy mobilizing and recruiting. They did give us the towns and places where they claim, or they were informed by the people that they interviewed, that these are happening. We then sent our ground collectors to collect. They collected, they analyzed, and they could not find such. Subsequent to those reports that we received, because we happen to meet as the NAT joins frequently just to assess the reports that are coming, the two police commissioners then scheduled a meeting which was to be undertaken on Friday, but because of other priorities, operational priorities, the National Commissioner of the South African Police Service couldn't travel out of the country on Friday. Therefore, that meeting happened on Monday between the two commissioners, as well as the delegates from the joint structure, which accompanied the National Commissioner. And we met with the delegation of Lesotho, that was the Lesotho Mounted Police Service.
So, General, in short, the Basotho cannot support their claim.
The Basotho, both intelligence communities as well as the police, we had operatives that have met on the site just to unpack what are they having, what have they found in terms of their own investigation, what we have found this time, and that engagement is still continuing.
But up to this point, you are 100% sure that no such camps have been established, in fact?
Have not been established, yes, Dr. Ndlozi, but we are not insinuating that they are not happening. We don't know, hence we are continuing. The directive that came from the leadership, our principals, is that they will give us more time with what was unpacked during that physical meeting to look at other avenues and to look at any other type of formation and interrogate and profile so that we are 100% sure that it's not happening. But up to this point, or up to last week Friday before we proceeded to Lesotho, we did not establish such. So the team is back on the ground. They are still working. They are still investigating. Collectors are still collecting, and they must collect and analyze before they can even inform. So we cannot talk about things that have not yet been processed by the intelligence communities. We are waiting for them to tell us that this is what we are receiving, this is what we are getting, and we'll see how further we process it. So up to today, as me and you are talking, we have not established a militaristic kind of a formation or a training. Because when you talk to security operatives, what do you mean by military? So that is what we are looking at, but we are not discounting. Hence, we are looking at any other formation that will be concerning when people are regrouping in numbers.
Would it be in the interest of national security, Mama, for you to confirm if the intelligence community was aware that such camps may indeed be active and where before you arrest the situation?
Pardon me, Dr. Ndlozi?
Would it be in the interest of national security for the police at this stage to confirm that paramilitary activities are happening, confirming what Lesotho was saying, before you arrest the situation? I'm saying if indeed such a thing existed, it wouldn't be wise to say, yes, it's there before you actually go bust them out, because you will be giving them an indication to pack up and go. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong, Dr. Ndlozi. It would be really premature to confirm if we have not received such reports that confirm it is happening. Again, not to also cause unnecessary panic to South Africans that there is this thing happening. I am going to reiterate what I said previously, that from the time that we established or the time that we uncovered what was happening in Witbank in Mpumalanga, we have been alert. We have always been alert of ensuring that we are not going to discover Libyans training or any other nation training, undermining our sovereignty, undermining the national security of our country, coming and training in South Africa that we have been alert. We have been waiting and working very hard. Hence, when this type of claims are coming, we did not rest it. We stood up to make sure that we are not going to allow it to happen. But it was unlikely because we have been alerted. However, we are saying, Dr. Ndlozi and Power listeners, we are not discounting now until such time that the time frame that was given, I think it will be sufficient for us to say we have covered the entire account and we are sure the thing of this kind is not happening. But as we speak now, we cannot say it's not happening. We cannot it's happening because we have not found anything of such happening.
But what would be in the mind of Basotho to make a public declaration of this nature if without giving you the information in a proper cooperation of intelligence to intelligence so that you are able, as it were, to work on it? Isn't the announcement of Basotho itself agent provocateurs on the one hand, or basically telling those people to make plans and disappear? Why would they make a public statement?
I will not, Dr. Ndlozi, even attempt to analyze why was the claim made.
Mama.
We did ask them
because as security structures, if something like that were to happen, public announcement, you're just giving those people a tactical advantage, it seems to me. But unless Basotho say we have warned South Africans, they're doing nothing about it. What is the procedure?
We are not controlling Lesotho. Lesotho is a sovereign country. And the Lesotho cannot tell us what to say, what not to say.
Agreed. But
from that point and alerting the securities, they have done that. They have done that.
Wait a bit, Mama. Wait a bit. I want to ask in this way. Before the public announcement, were you informed in a proper security exchange by the Basotho such that they felt you are not doing anything about the information they gave you, therefore they need to make a public statement?
The intelligence communities can... I think one will have to establish at what point were the claims made. When the letter was received through our Interpol office, it was processed as soon as we became aware of it. But I must say, when you look at the time that it was dated and the time that the public statement was made, yes, you will say the letter was processed before. But with intelligence communities, I cannot confirm that. I know what happened to the police, to police cooperation, because we do have that. Therefore, the letter was written to South Africa via the Interpol, which is the channel that is normally being used from country to country.
So you were told before by the Basotho that there are military activities before they made a public statement?
To the police.
Yes.
Police to police.
How long before?
The letter was written before the public statement was made.
How long before, between the two?
I will have to be sure on when the public statement was made, Dr. Ndlozi. I don't want to speak.
Yeah.
I will have to establish that, but I do know the date when the letter was, or the date that is appearing on the letter that we received.
Okay, let me bring the Lieutenant General, Motau. I don't know, General. It seems to me that if such claims are not supported, would I be correct that Lesotho is playing a game of destabilizing South Africa?
Thank you very much, Doctor. I hear the police are becoming very diplomatic. It's very important. But no, look, there are structures on the ground of intelligence cooperation. There are other structures of military to military cooperation. There are other structures of defense intelligence coordination in the region. And it is important that people should adhere to the structures and the protocols set out in SADC. It is becoming a worrying factor where people will just go out and criticize South Africa for whatever reason. I can tell you that follows immediately after the Botswana accused South Africa that it is not a secure place. While the Botswanas work here in South Africa, Basotho are working here in this country, and we do not understand the utterances of Lesotho. You know, even if they've said it after they've written the letter, there are proper mechanisms which they should have followed. You know, the Interstate Defense and Security Committee and its Defense Intelligence Standing Committee always discusses issues of security nature. It doesn't solve the problem of Lesotho to go out announcing that there's training while they don't have actual facts. You know, what does it mean? Does it mean Lesotho runs operations in South Africa? Is that what we have to understand? Look, Lesotho should understand that the Lesotho border is a very, you know, very border which is not very secure. I can tell you now that during my time we knew that the first Pakistanis who came into South Africa were going through Lesotho. We know there is a lot of cattle stock theft around that border, those borders. We know there are a lot of security issues, but I don't think South Africa is there to be making statements about security issues on the media. I think this is becoming a worrying factor indeed.
Mr. Els, what is your take? If a country that has cooperation as a neighbor, how do you read Lesotho's public pronouncements? I mean, even if there was intelligence exchange prior, and in this case the police say they cannot confirm anything Lesotho says. Hypothetically, if such paramilitary activities or training camps do not exist, isn't this an act of trying to render South Africa in some destabilization?
Good day to you. And also, I think your two generals really set the table for this question. They're really informed as well. We will see this as against the backdrop of course, the unstable situation that's been there politically in Lesotho for a very long time. You must remember at one stage South Africa even had to intervene on behalf of SADC in order to restore order there. So that is the backdrop. And there's a lot of politics being played out. So the general now said also, you've got all the instruments within SADC, and that is the ideal route to take. You've got your security cluster there that are normally governing all of these things and also ensure that there's compliance with that. So that is your political level that we need to understand, and those are also the venues that could have been taken preferably by the political party. We see these claims are from a political party, and it is based on what they prefer or they refer to as intelligence, and that's where the police comes in. You cannot go to court with intelligence. The police have to receive the intelligence. There are a lot of bilateral committees and cross-border cooperation between not only Lesotho and South Africa, but South Africa and all the other neighboring countries, and that's how it operates. So what happens is, should that intelligence then be tabled, then South Africa will take it. They have to convert that intelligence into evidence, and they cannot go on intelligence because intelligence is unverified. So once they have secured that this is evidence, and then they will start from that point to say, okay, we investigated, we found this evidence, and now we have to look at how we're going to solve the problem. So that is ideally how it should have been played out, and not in the political realm where we are trying to maybe score brownie points for political parties, etc., especially in the background of course, the land claims that they have there and all the other things that are developing. In terms of what the General also mentioned, Lesotho border is one of our most porous borders, and of course it's a concern from a security perspective, but also from a crime and organized crime perspective. We mentioned the cattle rustling or the cattle theft and the cross movement. We mentioned we can also mention for instance the illegal mining that has been dominated, especially in the Northwest Province and in the Free State, by your Lesotho gangs. So yes, there's a lot of things in common that we can discuss, a lot of concerns that we can discuss, and I think this is just one of them that has been blown out of proportion, maybe by political rhetoric.
General Mosikili, are there regional security structures for exchange and regional security? Are they active at a police-to-police level?
Thank you once more. And I think my two colleagues, General and the other person, they are very right. We do have cooperation to the point that we even have the cross-border crime meetings from time to time between the bordering provinces and Lesotho. Hence, this particular matter also caught us by surprise, and we did not sit back and say these are claims. We are having meetings, we are having structures that are very much healthy, that are still continuing. Why is this coming? And safe to say, we were in Lesotho not long ago with the binational, you will recall, it was all over the media where the two heads of states met. We were in Lesotho. But when this particular matter came to surface, we did not sit back, Dr. Ndlozi. That is why we, even as the police, the National Commissioner of the Police, thought it is best that we do go to Lesotho and meet with them and understand and interrogate the reports that are heavy, including what have they established before and after the claims were made. What do they have as evidence with them? And we have shared those talks and notes, and they spoke with our own police intelligence and other intelligence structures, also took it upon themselves to follow up on the claims that are being made. And I think you cannot take lightly claims of this nature or statements of this nature, especially when they come from that highest echelon of the security of Lesotho. And as a country, that is why now it was escalated to the level of the nut joints, where all the structures of law enforcement are sitting to look at the national security of the country.
Okay, General, thanks very much for joining us. We have to release you to go fight crime, and we'll continue with the conversation right after the news. But Lieutenant General Tebello Mosikili has to go. But thanks very much, General, for having agreed to share the update on this matter.
Thank you so much.
All right. Let's take the headlines and we continue with SANDF retired general and our security expert, Mr. Willem Els. It's time for the headlines with Nhlanhla Sihume.
Stay informed. Power Talk with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, 9 a.m. to midday on Power 98.7.
Indeed, we are speaking about the matter of paramilitary or military-style training camps by the Basotho nationals here in South Africa. I've got online SANDF, South African National Defence Force, Lieutenant General Maomela, Motau, and crime and security expert Willem Els. If you want to join this conversation, please call us on 0861 987 000. 0861 987 000. General, let me start again with you. As I understand, if you could maybe take us into confidence, what are the security structures, and if those security structures in the region did not receive this information and it comes through Interpol, what do we make of that? Isn't the implication that either those security structures are not working, or Lesotho deliberately chose not to use those channels? And if they didn't choose to use those channels, what does it mean?
Thank you, Dr. Ndlozi. As I said, I'm a little, uneasy and disappointed about the attitude of Lesotho on this issue. Look, when you go to Interpol, my understanding is that you have evidence which you report to Interpol. But if you don't have evidence, then we consider that to be intelligence reports which you should share with your counterparts in the neighboring country. There are, mechanisms. The Lesotho Defense Force intelligence structures and the South African National Defense Force intelligence structures are in contact, and they exchange views from time to time. As I have said, SADC has got ample structure to address issues which affect the relationship of countries in the region. So there is no good reason, absolutely no good reason, that Lesotho should have actually elected to take that route. For some of us, this is placed in the hands of the Americans, for example, who want to create a South Africa as a country, a lawless country, a country where people can be killed. Right there at the border, there are farmers. These farmers are under regular threat of their stock being stolen, and they are very much in touch with government. And if one farmer could have had bullets being fired regularly for training, surely they will have reported. I don't believe that there is such a so-called military preparation. Military preparation means the force which is being prepared has got a particular objective. Now, the question which we have from my side is, what were the objectives of that thing, of such a training? Look, in 1994, just before the inauguration of President Mandela, President Mandela called myself and the commander of Joe Mudisa then, and then we went together to a summit of the frontline states in Gaborone. And I have the three countries. It was my Zimbabwe, which was Brigadier General Zimonde. Botswana, it was Brigadier General Fisher, and myself. Were detailed to go to Lesotho and look at that situation in Lesotho in detail. Because Basotho wanted us to do that. Because of the closer relationship which we had with Lesotho. I don't understand this one. Why today that will happen.
Mr. Els, are you able to help us on some intelligible speculation? On the one hand, if such camps are not existent, what would motivate Lesotho to go on such a campaign publicly?
Yeah, I think we can only speculate on the objectives and the motives for that. But as I mentioned earlier, your political situation in Mozambique is extremely unstable. There's a lot of rivalry between the two political parties. We know not long ago there were also some murders or some killing of some of the senior military personnel, etc., etc. So it is a fertile breeding ground there for an unstable political situation that I think was exploited by the commentator that actually made these allegations. And as the General rightly said, there are some channels, and those channels could have been used, it should have been used, and it would have not had the same sensational effect that this one had. So we believe that it was sensation-seeking, and also I think what could have happened here is that they tried to exploit the history of South Africa, or the recent history, especially with the so-called the Libyan camps that were discovered in Mpumalanga. So, and that hurt South Africa's image, and against the backdrop of the land claims and all the other things that are happening there, I think that was maybe an attempt of these politicians to look for brownie points, especially coming up with the elections coming up, and to position themselves to find the ear of the Lesotho people. Also, we mentioned the situation currently with the Trump administration, the tariffs has been lifted, so they are indeed in severe trouble when it comes to the economy. So that could have also played a role. But as we said, if there are allegations like that, those allegations have to be substantiated by evidence. And as the police have mentioned, they did the investigation, they did not find anything, but the investigation is ongoing. So any new evidence can be channeled, and it will be investigated, because it is in the interest, of course, of both countries.
Would it be possible that South Africa might be denying something that is actually there? And what interest would that serve in your speculation?
Well, in a political scenario, you must always leave up in the back door that there might be some political moves that might be taken, and we've seen a lot of denials in the past from many countries that actually turned out to be the truth. It depends what the objectives and the political objectives of South Africa are, if they have any. But I think due to the sensitive situation of the training camps in South Africa, it would not have been a good idea for South Africa to deny it, should it be there.
If you've just joined us, this is Power Talk. Bantwana Benkosi here on Power 987. We are discussing the ongoing conversation between South Africa and Lesotho regarding paramilitary camps whose objective seemingly is the return of what they call the Lesotho land. General Motau, let's just a sense of a land reclamation struggle by Lesotho. How legitimate is that? Because my calculations that there are more Basotho people in South Africa than in Lesotho. What would be the basis of such a claim? Is that all the land belongs to the royal family?
No, I think firstly we should understand that Lesotho and Swaziland have made those type of claims for land in South Africa. That's point number one. Point number two, we should realize that the OAU then passed a resolution which says we should all, to avoid conflict, accept the colonial borders as they stand. So it is another thing which I don't understand. Why members of the AU today will go and resuscitate the claims of colonial time today. So for me, this is ununderstandable for Lesotho to do. But of course, Lesotho understand very well. I think it's a political game of some party or some individual. But they know that will never come to pass. They will never get land from South Africa. That's you are saying there are more Basothos, there are more Botswana, there are more Swazis in South Africa than there are in those countries. We understand historically that those were protectorates of the British protectorate, and therefore the majority of the population which are said to be in those countries are actually, some of them, I can tell you, my own relatives moved to Botswana in the 50s and came back. So we share what I can call ethnic and tribal relationships. So you can't start claiming land on the basis of saying how many Basothos are living in that area. You can't. I mean, it makes you to wish to be colonized by South Africa.
Yeah.
If that is what it says. South Africa must then say, remove the border, let the Basothos come here, because the majority of them work here. The majority of them come here for illegal mining. The majority is coming here to look for better life. So why do we have a border anyway? That's one point. I think the analyst there was correct. It is never in the interest of South Africa to destabilize Lesotho and Swaziland, particularly the two. It is never in the...
Willem, just for the sake of our listeners, what were British protectorates, and what purpose did they serve for the British in relation to, for instance, South Africa's government, and maybe at some point when the Afrikaners, as it were, took control in 1948?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. You know, the general just mentioned now, more African countries that got challenges with that. You know, in the 1880s, the late 1800s, we saw that the Berlin Conference took place, and there the colonial powers actually sat around a table, and they took a pen and a ruler, and they started to draw the African boundaries of all the countries. And what happened was, if you look at Mozambique, for instance, in Mozambique they got more than 14 ethnic groups represented in the country, but only one, the Makua, does not share an international border where there are Makua on both sides of that border. So in the majority of your country, in South Africa, like the General explained, with Botswana and South Africa, you know, it's international border that was drawn up, but it did not take into consideration your ethnic groups that are spread across that border, and it's so divided these groups. So that is the challenge that you are sitting with. Now the protectorates, we saw that if you look at the history of South Africa, with the Dutch that came, and then the English that took over, and then the Anglo-Boer War, and Cecil John Rhodes that actually had the objective to colonize all of Southern Africa for the crown because of the diamonds and the golds and all those things. That is why you had Botswana, that was a protectorate, but also you had up into Nyasaland, and you had your South Rhodesia, North Rhodesia, and all of those countries that are now separate countries, independent countries, that were actually part of this British Empire that actually was here to colonize the minerals and resources for the Queen. So that is a backdrop that we are sitting, and even today we are grappling with those things. We saw in Central Africa with Rwanda and DRC and the border disputes there and the challenges they have. So that is something that we inherited from the 1800s and that we are still grappling with today.
But weren't the British protectorates sometimes served for British monitoring of an Afrikaner controlled state, as it were, since the Afrikaners had historically, wanted complete autonomy from the British Empire and British control, such that they were allowed then these kingdoms to exist. And because of that, they may continue to serve as, conduits for monitoring the post-apartheid government. What do you say to that, Willem?
Yeah, you see, if you look at the history, you had your first and your second Anglo-Boer War, where they fought, the Afrikaner actually fought the British Empire, but Lesotho and Swaziland was not affected by that. They were protectorates of the British. But what we saw is that the influence of the British in these two countries really declined tremendously since then. So yes, they will always have an interest. They will always be part of the Commonwealth, etc., as is South Africa. So that is the historic challenges that we have to negotiate nowadays to mitigate the wrongs of the past, but also to look at how we can build on that in order to build a prosperous region. Because if you Lesotho, there are more, that the General said, there are many from here, Swaziland as well. So what we need to look at is it's not in the interest of South Africa that the people in Lesotho or Swaziland are not making a good living, because then more of them will flock here. So that is why South Africa is actively engaging with them, see how it can strengthen their economies, etc., etc. But apart from that, we've got integrated economies to the extent that there's a lot of interdependence on these economies. So that is, it's not in the interest of any of these countries to actually have this kind of disputes.
And General, what do you have to say to the British Protectorate and the possible continuing or lingering threat that they may be activated on those grounds for the monitoring of South Africa's government in light of the escalating tensions, as it were, with the United States?
I think we should follow on what Willem says and and paint a picture here, which is not going to be helpful for any of our neighboring countries to try and do. Our neighboring countries know we are in SACU together. Some of these economies benefit seriously from the Southern Africa Customs Union. They cannot see themselves outside that customs union. They cannot therefore start by using or being used to try and undermine South Africa by external forces or other countries in the world. So that can't be the case. Look, I've said South Africa is a bigger country. South Africa has immense resources to be able, to understand the situation of our people in Lesotho, Botswana, Swaziland, and so on. They don't need to be persuaded to take steps against our country, because it is in their interest to have a stable South Africa. It is in their interest. So I don't see them thinking in a smart way by being utilized by any other country. It will not be smart, because at the end of it all, here in Southern Africa, we will continue to live together. Willem has said, largely the economy which supports those economies is South African economy. It's South African economy. From time immemorial, the Basothos would come and work in the mines in Gauteng. From time immemorial, when we were still young or not born, working here, the majority of people who were going underground were from Lesotho, were from Mozambique, were from Zimbabwe, were from Botswana, of course, came in here as clerks and and office workers, but they've always been here. Okay. So it is not possible for them to think it's smart to be utilized against South Africa.
All right, General Maomela, Motau, and Willem Els, thank you both for providing us with insights and creating time to join us on Power Talk.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take Tebello in Pretoria. Welcome to Power Talk.
My brother.
Yes, sir.
My brother, let me tell you one thing about Lesotho. The people from Lesotho, majority of them work in South Africa. If you take the total population and you look at those that are working, over 80% of the entire workforce in Lesotho, the citizens there, are working in South Africa. Those that are not working in South Africa have IDs in South Africa. They cross the border to collect money for, the old age money, the grant for kids and all of that stuff. They even buy groceries in South Africa. They cross. I mean, you find those who are staying closer to the border, they cross to buy groceries and come back. So these people want to be South Africans. And that goes, you can cast a poll there and ask individual Basothans, do you want to be South Africans? They will tell you yes. The only reason why they cannot do that is because of the politicians. Politicians don't want a change, because the moment the change is there, ANC will swallow them, or any other bigger political party decides. So there will not be ministers, there will not be presidents, because the ANC, the moment you open the borders, ANCs now can go and campaign there and anybody else. Those people will cease to exist in Lesotho. They know that. So the reason why they don't want to even discuss this thing of open the borders is for their own interest, selfish interest. But Basotho, the people there wants to join South Africa.
All right.
That's my understanding.
Thanks, Tebello. Mamlolo in Rockville, welcome to Power Talk. Ma. Re tswile le kae?
What a disturbing topic. Wow, especially in the light of recent training of Libyan, whether it's forces or other, in Mpumalanga.
Yes.
Yes, so the question of borders should be handled with care. Yeah, it should be handled with care. And especially because we have Lesotho citizens married in intermarital, whatever. It exists, and we can't deny or it exists. So we can't. So there are families that side, families this side.
We are one thing.
This thing, yeah. Re batho ba le bang. The border tsena di a hloka. 1 minute di a hloka 1 minute because di tlile le boma. Who introduced the idea of borders? It's not Africans.
Ai ya Basotho yona ya mpalla le nna mama. Lesotho, Botswana le Swaziland. Yeah, no kidding.
Botswana, they shop here in South Africa. They cross in the morning, buses come to South Africa, they shop, later on they go back home. But at least, Botswana, they do it legally.
Yeah. Okay. That's Mam Lolo there. Let's take the news, Bantwana Benkosi. When we come back, we speak to Primrose Mudisani about her attaining finally an ID as a citizen after 30 years, I think. 30 years. Okay, stay tuned for that. Nhlanhla Sihuna.